I met Christian maybe 2 years out of school when I first saw what he had done with some of the pink. Look, let me just call it for what it is, okay? He made other people look fucking amazing, and those other people took credit for it. But behind the scenes, the pictures of the hands doing shit, that was his hands, right? So all this bullshit of all these famous people, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm like, you did fuck all. You didn't do anything. That was Christian Pochman when you could take advantage of him because he was this poor little Brazilian kid, talented. Right? And then he gets to become well known, and everybody's like, "Oh, yeah,
you got a crooked smile. Well, that don't bother me much. You double over, working double time. You double tough. I'll just shine it up until the sun hit like a glare. I gotta dare get the fuck up out the chair."
This episode with our good friend, Dr. Chris Ramsey, is hands down one of our favorite episodes. Chris is a master of managing people. He's an international speaker and accredited member of the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. But what sets Chris apart is that he's worked in hospitality for over 12 years, including at Disney World, and knows what it takes to make every person he interacts, patient or otherwise, feel special and get the highest quality attention and care. For Chris, dentistry is more than a profession. It's a way to make a real difference in people's lives. In this episode, we learn what it takes to make your dental practice stand out from the rest. Learn how to create an amazing patient experience using tips from Chris' background in hospitality and Disney's attention to detail. Learn why having a structured plan for talking to patients is key. We will show you how the right words can help patients feel good about their treatment options and say yes more often. And find out why building a strong brand and a caring team, along with a clean, welcoming office, can make your patients choose your practice over others. Don't miss any of Chris' gems that will help you transform your practice today.
Welcome back to The Happy Dentist. Today, we are so excited to have Dr. Chris Ramsey as our guest on the show. Dr. Chris Ramsey is a self-known, the influencer dentist. Did I get that right?
Yeah, depending on what topic matter it is. I make him a celebrity dentist. Yes, I
the celebrity dentist.
I'm the only asshole who doesn't take pictures with them. So, but yes.
Dr. Christian Coachman, I would love if you could go ahead and introduce Dr. Ramsey.
Did you call me Dr. Christian Coachman? You're very formal today. No, please don't. Anyway, for me, this is going to be the most fun podcast for sure I ever done. And I'm saying this before we even start. My dear friend, Chris, we were just talking offline. You know, we know each other for so many years. When absolutely nobody knew me, we were already doing stuff together. He's one of the most entertaining speakers in the whole dental industry by far, for sure, 100%, because he mixes amazing content, not clinical, with clinical, and amazing communication skills, very entertaining. So we're going to have a lot of fun here during the next.
One time he was speaking, I think it was at Seattle Study Club, you were like almost putting nails into your hands or something.
Yeah, that was a rough one. So here's me there. Seattle Study Club one time said, we want you to do a lecture, but can you not do it on dentistry? We want you to do something that's kind of entertaining. It just does something for fun as we end this session. And I was like, well, what's that mean? They were very vague. And I was like, okay, let me do this thing on, and I made it somewhat entertaining about making choices, brought somebody up from the audience, and we had these blocks with nails sticking out of them in bags, and they had to pick one so we could slam our hand down to try to get them to see if we could influence them to pick the right bag so we didn't drive a nail through our hand, you know, that type of thing. It was like a little like, it was ridiculous because things were going awry. I had brought people up who couldn't follow directions because most dentists are idiots and can't follow directions, you know, so I was like, oh my God. So that was probably the roughest lecture I've ever done. Fun, but rough.
Well, listen, for those of our audience members who don't know you, will you share your story with us?
Yeah, real quick background. I'll make it really quick. I practice in Jupiter, Florida with a guy named Rob Ritter. We're Ritter and Ramsey as a brand. Jupiter, Florida is a little beach community just north of Palm Beach, about 15 minutes north. Been in South Florida most of my life, grew up here. Practicing now for 24 years. Went to Temple University. No one cares, but I'm just mentioning that. We built a practice and a brand based on comprehensive restorative practice. We only do restorative dentistry dentistry, so I don't do any surgery. I just do restorative. We have a nice big general practice, but we don't really do a lot of general dentistry. It's just a lot of prosthetics. My background prior to dentistry, which is probably most important, which we'll touch on today, was 12 years of hospitality, 7 years in fine dining, and then I also worked for Disney. I'm a customer service fanatic. My forte as far as speaking got away from clinical over a decade ago, and now is all based on team building. So most of the time, 99% of the time, if I speak somewhere, it's usually doctors and teams. I usually say that bringing just your doctor is not going to do it. And I love the doctors who just send their team because they're too cheap or they think they're too smart to come. Then their team come back and goes, oh my God, that was amazing. The doctor has no idea what I'm talking about. So I do all doctor team building now. My goal outside of my own goals for my practice, if it's for the betterment of dentistry, is to get dentists to stop thinking like a dentist, start doing things differently and looking at things differently so they can take themselves and their game and go like this. Meaning as a person, as a dentist, and if you take those same attributes I just talked about, they can implement those in pretty much any part of their life. You want to be a better dad, a better father, a better this, a better that, which by the way, I failed at all that shit. So I'm just talking about learning as I go. Turn that off for me. That's kind of my background. So I'm really passionate about customer service, thinking differently, arts of persuasion, human decision-making, and understanding how to get in people's minds so that you can enjoy this thing called dentistry. Because if you are just coming in every day flailing about, you will get burnt out. That's a subject matter that Kyle often talks about. You will reach points of depression. You will be miserable. You'll be unhappy. So you've got to understand what it means to have a mindset to come in every day like they do in other industries that we need to be better at in dentistry. So that's kind of my background and forte.
Yeah, I like that Chris brings in a lot of things outside of dentistry. I think in the dental world, we get very incestuous with things, right? We have these idols that are in dentistry. We learn customer service from people in dentistry. We learn, like we were talking about the other day, Christian, design from other people in dentistry. And that's why all of our practices look the same. That's why everyone says the same thing. When you start looking outside of dentistry, oh my gosh, this is when people really fly.
It's extremely rewarding to look outside of our industry, which is this little cottage industry compared to everything else.
Right.
You look outside and go, okay, you know what? I've discovered the way we do things that I really like is completely different than every other dentist wants to do them. And that's when I start to realize there's something here to take. And listen, we're not that smart. Everything I know, I've stolen from somebody else. I've stolen from another industry, right? But the way we answer the phone, to the way you come in, to the way you get processed through the office, and to the moment you leave, there is a mantra that happens here under the umbrella of illusion. I create a Disney illusion, and that's what it is. And we'll go into that today as we speak, but it is an illusion. There's a show going on between 8 and 5, and there is no compromise in regards to how people look, talk, speak, hear, do anything as far as when you're working here. The illusion happens all day long, even though it is illusion. So
I've always said the best artists steal. That's why I travel, so to get inspired, to bring other things back into our industry. Chris, I want to hone in on this. This is so fascinating. We all obviously know that dentistry isn't known for hospitality, but you actually are probably one of the only dentists that comes from over a decade of a background in hospitality at one of the best customer service companies in the world, Disney. Tell us about how this influenced you.
So when I had an opportunity to work for Disney, one of the things that caught me was that, I was hired to be in their entertainment department, and working for their entertainment department, you get to do a lot of creative things and I was there every single day, including my days off. So when I was off, I was on the Disney grounds. I was obsessed with that company. If I didn't go into dentistry, it would have been very likely I could have worked for that company because I loved everything about them. I love how they ran things internally. Their systems were in place. Everything was under the confines of, we want to make the experience as good today as the day we opened up in 1972, meaning there is zero flexibility in regards to details, meaning every detail matters.
Let me tell you a story real quickly on that.
Yeah.
So one of our computer vision engineers from Pearl used to work for Disney. And what he did was analyze where the trash can should be, where each trash can should be. And they would move it by millimeters and see how fast it filled up. The faster it filled up was the better. That was the better position. So they would move it 6 millimeters to the left and check how fast it filled up. And then they'd go back, maybe it's 8 millimeters. Maybe it's 10 millimeters. Oh, it's 12. That's the answer. It's 12. That's the fastest way. That's how detail oriented they are. Isn't that crazy?
And when you hear stories like this, the first thing that comes to mind for our industry is you could say what you just said right now. And if you took every dentist in the US, let's round it up and say there's 200,000, including specialists, 200,000. I guarantee you 190,000 of them would say that's not that important. We are notorious for believing that those little details, no one's going to notice that, right?
That's right.
And all that really is you're fucking lazy. That's what it is. Because what's it take to move a trash can? Nothing. But the thought that goes into that is, how can I do this better? How can we be better? Listen, you come to Florida and you go to Disney one day and then take your family to SeaWorld the second day. Oh my God. It's embarrassing. You go to SeaWorld, there's chipped paint, dirty walls, go in the bathroom. It looks like someone just shit all over the walls. There's nothing's going on the same. But you have two amusement parks that charge you to come in, will sell you a soda and put on shows, and they are diametrically different. So the Disney thing is attention. When I went out on parade route, because I danced for them, I was covered in light bulbs. I had 2 battery packs that generated those. There was a girl who would come around every single night before I went out, and they would check really closely, and they had a little instrument that could pluck the light bulb out if it was burnt out and stick a new one in. Why? Because every light bulb had to be built. It had to be lit. It wouldn't be like, that's just one up by your collar. No one's going to notice that. Unacceptable. There's no gum on the floor at Disney. There's no gum.
It's like Singapore.
Everything is painted in the parks. If you notice, there's never chipped paint because they have crews that paint. And when they get to the end, they start over. Whether it needs it or not, they're updating the paint all the time. I could ask any dentist watching this podcast, when's the last time you went around and touched up some paint in your practice? It'll be so attention to detail is what I got from Disney outside of them just having systems in place. And the biggest thing I got from them was 2 things. One, everything is an illusion. They are there to create an illusion. It's expensive to go to Disney. It's expensive to see Chris Ramsey. So the illusion is you're going to spend X, but we're going to give you this experience. So when you leave, you go, there's nothing like this in the world, which is what they want, right? So we've all gone to restaurants where we're like, holy shit, that was a lot of money. That was unbelievable. I can't wait to get back there. And you just spent $1,000 for 2 people to eat, right? And you're like, but I can't wait to get back. Yeah, you could go to Outback, drop $50 and be like, that sucked. And you're like, well, it's only $50. It doesn't matter. It still sucks. So my thing is, it's expensive to go there. So they create an illusion that you have to buy into. Everybody that works there, whether they serve you a soda or they dance or they run a ride or whatever, they are pounding their fists of the Disney mantra. You will not go. You go right now today. It's like 1:00 my time. You go there right now. No one's having a bad day. Not a single person. And that is not what we would find in the industry of dentistry. We allow for details to get missed. We allow for weird behavior. We allow our practices to ebb and flow at the whims of staff and patients and all these things like that. We have so much to improve, and Disney is a perfect model. That was the first thing I told you, the illusion. The second thing was there's zero compromise, meaning you can't be in a Disney employee and go, you know what? I think we should do it like this. They, in a nice way, say, I think you should shut the fuck up and get back to work, right? Because we have been doing something very good for 50, 60 years in a very specific way. So they have zero compromise, and their attention to detail all under the confines of this illusionary background is unbelievable. That's what I brought to our office.
Chris, let me ask you a question, because I'm very big on expectations, setting expectations with patients, with team members, with family, with friends, whatever. Working for Disney, did they set that expectation early with you so that if you had a question, you knew why it wasn't being done another way?
Yeah. Well, the first thing they did for you, if you're ever going to Orlando and you're driving up I-4, there's a large building, you can't miss it. And it's got the words casting, and they're big individual signs, CASTING, casting. It takes up like the whole expressway. That center is where you go when you get hired. So whether you are a janitor, a dancer, running a ride, an executive, doesn't matter. You all go through casting for X amount of days. And that's kind of a reset. Welcome to Disney. Let us get you on. By the time you're done with that quote unquote training, you're in. Because if you're not, you're weeded out quickly. They quickly realize this person's not going to mend to what we're doing here. So the expectation is we're going to give you the tools necessary to understand who we are as a company and what we're striving for. And next thing you know, that everyone clicks and everyone realizes it. And what's amazing about Disney is this, which happens in the dental office. If you're surrounded working at Disney where everybody is smiling and everyone's doing something and everyone's going above and beyond, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to do the same. It's human nature to always fall to the lowest common denominator. So if you got a shitbag employee, you're like, oh, I don't want to get rid of her. She's been in my office for like 18 years. I go, yeah, but she's a virus, right? All the other ladies may go, you know what? She makes the same. I make the same as she does. Why do I want to work harder? Because she sucks. She comes in with everyone forced to wear the same sneakers. You let her wear some other sneakers because she's got plantar fasciitis or whatever. So the rules, it doesn't work like that. At Disney, you get so programmed to say, you got to go above and beyond. I'll give you a perfect example. When someone would come to me, I could be walking as an employee and someone would say to me, you remember the famous line, what time's the 3:00 parade? And you're like, oh, okay. Instead of taking that moment and be like, oh, they're so stupid, you just felt compelled to go above and beyond. So when people would say like, hey, what time's the parade start? I'd be like, well, it's going to start in a little while. And I'll tell you what, how many people are in your party? And they'd be like, well, there's like 7 of us. I go, are you guys all together right now? I go, come with me real quickly. And I take this family who I just met. I'd walk them down Main Street. I go, I want you guys to sit right here. This is the best corner for you or family to sit. And they go, it seems early. I go, trust me, give yourself about 10 or 15 minutes. Place is going to start getting packed. And you're going to be glad you had this real estate. On top of it, hang tight because this is the corner right where they turn and your kids will have the best vision of Mickey and Minnie as they wave to them. This is going to be the best seat right here. I go, so why don't you guys stay right here? How many of you? 7? I'm going to go get you guys all bottles of water. I'll be right back. You see what just happened there? No, they didn't train me to do that. What I'm saying is you start buying into the understanding of how important is the parade? How important is this family? How important are their kids? What experience do I want them to have? What's going to be their expectations about walking out of this park when they're exhausted and they spent thousands of dollars to be here? You're happy to be part of a bigger picture that says we're doing something grand. We're doing something exceptional. We're the best at what we do, which Disney is the best at what they do in regards to theme parks and that type of thing and experience. So with that said, how can you not take that mentality when you start another industry and not want to and not do the same? That's what I want.
Let's relate it back to dentistry, right? So that example you said about casting, and they take, what'd you say, 3 days maybe, where they're going to talk to you about the vision. They're going to talk to you about how we talk, how we point with 2 fingers instead of 1 finger because it's not rude, or their hand, I forget which one they use. Now, what's the juxtaposition of what we do in dentistry? Oh, hey, John, I just hired you. Yeah, come in here. Let's get started. First patient. They don't know the vision. They don't know where you're going. What kind of dentistry do you do? Like, they don't know anything. And then we complain about those employees, right?
Yes, correct. Our training in dentistry is basically this. Like, imagine I was hiring Ingrid and you came to my office. Great dress. I'm like, all right, here she is for the interview. Love the dress. I'd be like, this is how we hire. Hey, Ingrid, it's nice to meet you. Do you speak English? And you'd be like, yeah. I'd be like, do you have a heartbeat? Yeah. I go, hired. All right, come on, let's go. And I throw you to the wolves. And then I have all these expectations that you can't meet. We don't have HR. We don't have all these things and we don't do it. In fact, I'm going to go another step level, which is going to offend a bunch of people listening to you. But here's my thought on that. You almost can't do these things if dentistry was your first job. If you were coddled by your parents, you went to high school, then you went to some cushy college, then you went to dental school and mommy and daddy's paying for everything. You never really fucking worked. You are soft and you are weak. That's how I see you. You are definitely not somebody I would hang out with because then you don't know what it's like to be a waiter and work for tips or bust your ass or trim some bushes or do some shit. That's when I talk to dentists. They're like, oh my God, I worked so hard today. I'm like, no, you didn't. They're like, what? I'm like, I don't care what you did today. Yeah, you didn't work hard. I go, do you have a lunch? You eat something? You're working inside the AC? You done at like cushy 5 o'clock? Look at you. I go, hard. The guy on the other side of my bushes in Florida.
Chris, I've got a question for you. So it's almost like a cult. Like what you're describing is almost like getting into a cult. Like this is what we're doing. We're part of something bigger. So one of the biggest issues, as you know, in dentistry right now is staffing. And one of the solutions that I hear everyone turning to is staffing agencies. As you're talking, it makes me question the entire thing entirely because if we don't have dedicated people that are abiding by our culture, how can we create incredible customer service? What are your thoughts on them?
2 things. 1, dentists are fucking cheap, okay? That's the thing we got to get past. They are as frugal as they come. They themselves want to make a lot of money, but then they want people to bleed for them and not benefit from that. That's the first thing. So they're cheap. So that's what you're working against. So let me tell you about that. I pay all my people just a little bit more than everybody else in town. Why? Because nobody wants to see them make a lateral move. Okay, so they're like, ugh, I like it here. And he does pay me well. So, and I got a bonus structure that's in place that we really like. So people can make and make and make. And they're like, oh, I really don't want to leave here. Plus we treat them well. I mean, that's the biggest thing, but we're not cheap when it comes to pay. So that's the biggest, that's the biggest issue.
But also leadership, Chris, leadership plays a big role. I don't see great leaders complaining that they cannot find great people,
No, but the dentist mistake is you keep looking in dentistry to fill the spot. I have a girl that's right here. I could bring her in here and introduce you to her right now. Her name's Issa. I got her because I went to this restaurant all the time and this girl would take care of me. And I was always like, oh, you would think this is scripted. I shit you not. She just walked through the door. Just say hi real quickly. Hello. Okay. Now you have to go away. She's amazing. So I'm telling a story about you. So she took care of me for years. And I was like, she was amazing. I can't believe she just walked in. She was on the ball. Memorization was unbelievable. So finally we were just like, hey, you want to do something different? And she was like, yeah. And we're like, come check this out. So she went for a little while, worked for like a chiropractic place. And I was like, come check out dentistry. It's just she did. And we love her. She loves us. We have this great symbiotic. Now it's been a year. So we took her from a industry that was customer service related, that she had good memorization skills. You could see there was traits in her. You can teach teeth. I can teach you to suction and make a temp and do all these things. But dentists keep putting ads out on Indeed and everything, looking for an assistant. In your town, you're recycling the same shit that people got rid of. So you got to go outside of that box and say, I got to find people from other industries and teach them dentistry. Now, what am I happy about? If she moves ever again, we've taught her a life skill. She's an incredible dental assistant, getting better every single day. Now, our demands are high. She understands that we do not cut corners. She starts to bleed into the mantra of what we're doing here. She's seen me. I'm like, not acceptable. Not like there is no cutting any corners ever, not in the way we treat people. So I'm even teaching them same thing. Like Kyle just said with the hand thing, none of my team, when someone goes, hey, where's the bathroom? They don't go, oh, it's over there, second door. I'm like, you better get your lazy ass up and walk them to the bathroom, right? That's how we do it here. So they're just like, oh, I'll take you. They don't take them, in the bathroom, but they take them to the bathroom, so that they could stay. And then they'll wait and then walk them back to the operatory. Because why? It doesn't take any extra effort to be great at your customer service. But if you don't hire people, if you got some girl, Susie, who was an assistant 2 miles down the road, she quit, got fired, whatever, you're trying to recycle her. Now she wants to bring in the bad habits from the other place, not really buy into what you're saying. You're fighting a personality. Oh my God. So we've got to start looking at other avenues of other places.
This great experience that you're creating, learning from all the industries that are mastering it, we love to go to certain places, hotels or spas or airlines or, bars and restaurants, the best in the world. As you said, we don't need to reinvent anything. We just need to learn what they're doing. They're mastering. They're creating this experience that it doesn't matter how much you pay, you want to do it again. Now, how this experience impacts decision making? Because at the end of the day, you want this possible customer to say, I love this place. I'm a fan, and I'm going to tell everybody to come here. So 2 things. First, how do you make somebody that is a possible patient becoming a fan? And how do you make a fan become a promoter, meaning somebody that is going to get out of their way to talk about you? Because these are 2 different levels, right?
It's a very thing. There's a thing called the primacy effect. So the primacy effect is basically it's something that defines the first point of contact, right? That first point of contact. Let me just tell you how everyone's brain works really quickly. Let's say I call Kyle's office. Kyle, who's the girl that answers your phone? A name.
Diana, probably.
Diana. Okay. I'm nobody. I called. Diana picks up the phone. Let's say Diana's having personally an okay day. Not a bad day, but it's just okay. On the phone, she's kind of going everything. And when we hang up, I think to myself, that was okay. It wasn't great. So what happens? You have a thing called confirmation bias that kicks in. There's this known term called fundamental attribution error, which basically means we love ourselves. We love ourselves. I am much more forgiving for the mistakes I will make as opposed to the mistakes Ingrid will make in the same exact environment with the same scenario. I will forgive myself more than I will Ingrid for making the same mistake. So we love ourselves as human. Nobody cares more about Chris Ramsey than Chris Ramsey. So because we don't want to be wrong, confirmation bias kicks in and goes, that wasn't great, but I'm going to go anyway. But your confirmation bias goes, I want to find all the things that confirm I was right and prove that it wasn't great. So now I walk in and Ingrid's maybe on the phone, or she's fucking filing her nail, or looking at a catalog, or scrolling on her phone, which is now people are trying to make acceptable, but it's not. Okay. And all these things that happen. And I go, you know what? I was right. This place sucks, right? I don't like it. I don't like the way it smells. I don't like the way they took me back. I don't like all your stupid paperwork, but now let's reverse it.
You fill in your story, right? You want to fill in your story that you're already preset.
Yes. You want to fill in your story. But if I call now and Diana is incredible on the phone, my first contact ever to the office of Kyle Stanley is like, holy shit, man, I just hung up. That was amazing. Now confirmation bias is when I get there, I'm going to look for all the things that confirm I was right. Oh man, this place looks amazing. Oh my God. And now I want to be right. I want to fill in the story. So for dentists, your first point of contact creates the difference where someone goes, oh man, I really like it here. I like it here. This is so not a dental office. We could talk for days about the things I think you should do in your office. Stop making it look like a dental office. No crack on anybody, but I visit a lot of dental offices, okay? And they look like shit. They look like guys know the restaurant Cracker Barrel? They look like a Cracker Barrel. There's like, if you're a dentist who still has those little plastic things lined up and they got the little pamphlet sitting there with the little plastic container and there's a line of it. Do you think a 55-year-old guy moving 100 miles an hour, I'm on my phone, I come busted into Kyle's office, I'm looking at something, I'm going to look over and go, oh, wow, let me turn my phone off. Let me go pick up this pamphlet. Check this out. A pamphlet on oral cancer. That sounds amazing. Let me look at this. Come on, clean that shit up. Get rid of all of that stuff. If you come into my office now, there's no art. All the art is song lyrics. We have every song that has the word smile printed in art. So that was a cool idea by my woman, did that. If you come in here, we got rid of all the magazines. Why? People don't read magazines anymore. They're looking at their phone. I got rid of the TVs. I got rid of all this stuff. In fact, you walk through our office, none of our credentials are on the wall. You know why? Because no one gives a shit, right? So here's the thing. It's everything that a dentist would do, we did the opposite. But that has to coincide. That's going to be noticed after the first point of contact. So you got to blow them away. The first word. So the question becomes for dentists when I'm speaking, who do you have answering the phone? Controlling your 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 million, $10 million practice, they got to be incredible. So when you call Disney to buy tickets for your family, which are very expensive, listen to that person on the phone. They're sitting in a booth selling tickets to a theme park. They're not in the theme park. They're just selling you tickets. And you're like, this is such a good experience. They're so helpful. You want a 1-day pass, 3-day pass. Let me tell you the advantages. Let me help you out. Can I help you with your hotel? They can help you with your flights. They'll do everything for you. So you're already psyched to go, even though you dropped $1,000 already just in tickets. You haven't even entered the way. If you're thinking people are going to come to you because you're a great dentist, you're fooling yourself. No one gives a shit about your credentials or how well you think you prep or any of that. And I keep telling people, I have met 6 or 7 people recently. All they're telling me about, I signed up for Kois, which by the way, you should sign up for this. But nobody has told me ever, I'm doing this to better my team. I'm improving this girl's phone skills. I took this girl and I put her on a master class on how to communicate better. But yet you still got Susie Q up in the front answering your phone because she does good enough.
Yeah, Chris, I couldn't agree with you enough. Christian has a slide in one of his presentations that says 85% of your financial is due to your soft skills, not your technical skills. And it's something that has changed my entire life. When I went through burnout, I thought, I just need to get better clinically. I just need to do this better. I need to do I learned how to do implants better. I need to, hang out with Pascal more and learn more about bonding. And I need to do this and that. And guess what? I still went through burnout. You know what helped me? Learning how to communicate, learning how to balance my life, learning how to eat right and exercise, set expectations with my team, have boundaries with my family, with my friends, with my team, with my patients. All of these skills that no dentist is doing. That's why I think what you talk about is so important. If you take a good dentist, like a clinically good dentist, like you said, that's done Kois and Penke and learn from Christian and all these people, and then they learn how to communicate, holy shit. These are the people that fly. These people become so successful because they have the clinical skills. And now you add on top of that, they learn how to get case acceptance up by learning how to communicate correctly. They can do the same thing, but their case acceptance doubles. I mean, that can change their life.
One thing that you talk about a lot that I found out through scrolling through all your reels is the importance of the dental consultation and how the dental consultation makes or breaks the patient experience and your bottom line. So I want to dive in on this specifically, right? Tell us what you've learned about how modern dentists should run their dental consultation.
To answer that question, I'm going to piggyback on and make a comment, a pre-comment to what Kyle just said as it goes into that. I want everyone listening to this to understand this. If you actually focus on your ability to communicate better, one of the things you're going to notice is that the recipient is going to respect you more. You're going to get less flack. You're going to get less resistance. When someone speaks well, people don't try to run you over. Do you notice almost this entire podcast, you haven't heard me go, do you know how long that took as a speaker? I actually worked on that. I've actually rewatched my own podcast to make sure that my ability to speak, my ability to pronunciate, my ability to get words out makes sense. When I'm doing my consults, as I'm going to talk to you about right now, I do them in a way where people don't feel overrun, but they go, shit, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's extremely educated on this topic matter. I'm not going to try to run this guy over. But when you're like unsure of yourself and I don't know, people start smashing you, right? So that leads into the consult. Consults for me have been this anomaly for about a decade. And I started to talk to my business partner back in the day, and I would do this deep dive research. And I used to ask the question, why do people come for consults? And a long time ago, people said, oh, people come to our practice because they trust us. I go, that's impossible. They don't know you. In fact, I sent Kyle a shell of keynote slides that I had done a deep dive and on the literature search of the concept of trust. So trust is not it. And that's a separate topic. What I found with consults is this. Every dentist listening to this will know this happens to them. Somebody's scheduled for a consult. You walk in, you do the pleasantries, and then the conversation can just go wherever he wants to go. And 90% of the time, it's going down a path that the dentist typically doesn't want to go to. We've all had this. Hi, it's nice to meet you. I just had this crown done in New York, this one right here. So I was thinking maybe you could do a couple of these and match that one over here. Maybe there's some bonding right here. And they're just, it's mental diarrhea. And the whole time you're like, no, but you're trying to be nice. So I, a while back, said there's got to be more of a scientific approach to a consult. And the true scientific approach, if I was speaking with Christian Coachman, I could do hours on just the science of a consult. Because the science of a consult, again, the consult really starts again at the first time they call.
Hey, by the way, we are putting a course together, Chris and myself, only exclusively, specifically about the consult.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. The experience of this.
I'll
Yes.
be
We're going
there.
to do it. It's going to be incredible. I wasn't able to sure if I could say it, but I'm glad you did. So we could start about where the consult really starts. People think the consult starts when the doctor starts talking to the patient in the room. The consult has started from the moment they call. That's a different philosophy. We'll talk about that. But let's just talk about when you walk in the room. I can talk to you about the concept of art of persuasion, human decision-making, and body language, that I can control that conversation. But I'm going to give you just one little free caveat. I think you owe it to your patients for them to understand, as soon as you walk in the room, something that comes out of my mouth is, I'm not here to sell you on anything. What I'm here is to educate you above and beyond what you'll get at any other consult. I feel confident in that, so that when you leave here and get other consults, which I want you to do, you'll understand no one's going to be as more thorough as I am. I'm not trying to get you to do the work with me. I'm trying to keep you from making a mistake elsewhere. Everything you just heard me say, I say all the time. So people go, because understand this, dentist, you can't sell anything that somebody doesn't really want to buy. You can't force me to buy anything I don't really want to buy. So this whole thing about sales techniques and all this is shit. You need to know, if they're there for a consult, this is another human who has family, children, work, all these other things going on. They've taken time out of their day to drive to your place, to fill out your shitty paperwork, to come in and say, I want to hear what this Kyle Stanley guy has to say, because I was told his name a couple times. The experience went pretty well with Diana. It's a nice office. Let me hear what he said. You're 90% there. So now you need to guide that last 10%. Not trying to convince you to do veneers. What I'm trying to say is, if you want to change your smile, you want to improve your dentistry, I want to do it in a way that does two things. It gives you what you're looking for cosmetically and what I need functionally. Because with all due respect, when I'm done, I really don't want to see your face. And I joke about this all the time. My phone never rings on the weekend. Do you know what that means? I move slower than everybody else. But let me tell you, when we're done, meaning you don't come back with problems. We don't have that. We're not, if you're in a rush, you might want to go, to the Northeast or someplace else where everything has to be done tomorrow. That's not here. But my consults improved when I applied what's called the 3 defaults. Your defaults can be whatever you're comfortable with in your practice. When I can isolate to 3 defaults, and 3 is a magic number for different reasons on another podcast, but 3 works really well. So I isolate to, you want to improve your smile? Our defaults became this in our practice: front 4, 10, or 14. So in our practice, we say 4, 10, 14. What does that mean? Front 4, typically bilateral symmetry. It's not a smile. It's a smile enhancement, not a smile design. Upper 10, which is a smile design, typically, very commonly. Or 14, because I'm going to have to open your bite, because I'm going to include your molars and we're going to be opening your vertical dimension. If you understand, when you walk into somebody and you've collected your data, your scans, your photos, whatever you've trained your team to do, and you look at that, you can almost bet you already kind of know where that person's headed. So now we guide the conversation to, this is how we look at things. When I tell people about the 3 defaults, You have to understand they don't go off the rails anymore. They don't talk to me about just doing the front 6. That wasn't one of the defaults. They now realize, okay, 4, I show them a couple cases of what it means to do 4, what it means to do 10, and what it means when I have to open your bite. I'm just showing them before and afters. That's the other thing I want to make sure people do in consults. You can't just bring a person in and say, let me impress you with my before and afters all have a story attached to them. This vertical needed to be open. Let me explain why that meant. We only did these many teeth. Let me explain why. This person has something similar to you. This side doesn't function correctly, so we had to do X. Not just before, after, because every dentist is going to do that. So for me, I could tell you a million things we do in the consult, but there is a science to it. I can tell you where we sit, where we stand, the tone of my voice, the sequence in which I relay treatment. If I know you're an upper 10 case, so that means you're not a 4 and I don't have to open your vertical, then that 10 case, I'm going to present that to you last. Why? It's called the recency effect. Things listed last have a tendency better for you to remember them. So I don't start off. Panky used to say, you always tell the patient the best thing first. And I was like, no, you don't. You tell them last. If you're a realtor and you show 3 houses, you show the best house last because that's the one you want them to remember the most.
I see this with my 2-year-old all the time. We say like, do you want water or you want juice? And she goes, juice. And then we go, do you want juice or do you want water? She goes, water. And like,
Exactly.
It's so funny. It starts that early, you know?
So my point of telling you all this without getting into massive detail is if you want to apply social and cognitive psychology to your consult, it is very possible. We have to understand how humans think, how they process information. You know, we could talk about all these ways they talk about the brain. One thing your brain will do is if you're boring me, I'm going to ignore the information. We know that about the brain. The first thing the brain does, if you want to get into like basic 1960s terms, is this reptilian fight or flight. Like, oof, I don't know, like, whoa, what's going on here? As soon as the what's going on here, the next level is, how does this make me feel? And in the communication. Then if it makes me feel good, I'm willing to process the information you're about to tell me. So when people are saying, I'll think about it, something happened there. They're not going home to think about it. They're trying to get out of your chair. So a lot of times, you've missed all these things thinking you're going to impress them with just the before and afters, but all the key things leading up to it, your front desk, the experience, how the place looked, how it smelled, how your team looked. Christian just mentioned it. We all go to nice places, hotels, every place. But you notice the one thing we love about them is everyone looks uniform when you go to really nice places. We understand that, the 4 of us and the dentist listening to it. But you know who doesn't understand that a lot of times? Your team. Because most of your team haven't been to a Ritz. They haven't been to a Four Seasons. They can't afford to go there just because it is what it is, economics. So you can't expect them to understand it. So we have to train them to understand why uniformity is important. I'm talking to you, I'm in my conference room right now. This is just a couple months ago. We were in the middle of our morning huddle and I interrupted everybody and I go, I got to be honest with you. Rob Ritter will attest to this when you talk to him. I go, I got to be honest with you. You guys look like shit. And they're like, what? I'm like, you guys look terrible. Our rule was everybody wears black. I go, but look at you. You're wearing workout pants. You're wearing scrubs. Everyone's wearing black, but I said, no. I told one girl, get everybody into figs, the kick-ass figs. I said, and then put everybody in on sneakers. So another dentist said, dude, why would you spend that kind of money on sneakers? Why don't you just get them some Skechers? I go, why are you so fucking cheap? Why are you asking me to put them in $40 sneakers when I can put them in $180 ons? They look good, they're comfortable, and they're going to last. So my thing is not about being cheap. It's about having this amazing team that looks good. They're hitting all the touch points. So by the time I walk in the room, the majority of work is already done. They're going to make that decision. They're going to be like, okay, I want to see the dentistry, but the dentistry, look, how good does the dentistry have to be? Really? It needs to be good, but it doesn't have to be. Everyone looks on Instagram and they're like trying to achieve this. You know who I need to be the best at? I just need to be the best in my town. My dentistry can be less than Kyle's. My patients aren't going to Kyle. Okay. I need to know I'm doing it better than 5 to 7 mile radius around northern Palm Beach County. If I can wake up and go, I'm doing it better than everybody in my town, I get the privilege of saying this term, I'm the best in the world. Now you would say that's arrogant, but the world is my world. I don't care what they're doing in Boston or New York or Dallas. My patients aren't going there. Yes, you get the patient who flies in. That sounds fancy. That's a pain in the ass. My patients who fly in, I go, tell you what, please don't. Please don't. I don't want that dentistry because it's a nightmare. What I want is the people in northern Palm Beach County to go, nobody does it better than them. Not the dentistry, because I know that use the right labs, scanners, all this stuff like that. I need my dentistry to be here. But all the other things leading up to that, I know I can do better than everybody else because people don't have my background or wherewithal or just don't want to take the time. So if you're listening to this podcast, you can do all these great things leading up to the consult. But when you get to the consult, you got to take the time to say, I need to learn how to do a systematic consult that feels like it's free flow. I could talk to you guys right now and persuade you into thinking like I'm thinking, and you would swear on your life that it's a free choice. But it's not.
That's what's so interesting, Chris, is that I love it. You said this a few minutes ago. You said that there's a science behind conversation. No dentist learned that. And what's crazy about that is, as dentists, we love science, right? We can tell you the bond strength of this, and we can tell you why we're etching for this long. And, we love that science, but only when it's clinical. We're like, oh, wait, non-clinical? There's nothing that can be scientific about that. And when I delving deep into positive psychology and the psychology of overachievers, all of this kind of stuff, I learned, holy crap, there's so much science. And you think like, wait, science on conversation? Yeah, like there's randomized controlled clinical trials on conversation or persuasion, these type of things. So that's what's so crazy is like, as dentists, we love recipe, right? We love etch for this long, then rinse for this long, then prime for this long, then bond for this long, then cure for this long. But you can learn those same type of things from people like you to another level. And another thing I wanted to say too, backing up on what you said too about like the shoes and the uniform. You said dentists are cheap, right? And they say, well, why would you buy $180 shoes and you can buy $40 shoes? What they don't realize is all those little steps that go up to that case acceptance. One case, you need one more case. You paid for all those shoes 10 times, right? And they're going to penny pinch on all of this.
I have a mentor in San Francisco. She's an orthodontist, Dr. Bella Shen, and she does this so amazingly. You walk into her clinic. She's got 2 offices right in the heart of San Francisco, and everyone looks immaculate. Like, it's like you're stepping into an Apple store. I've never seen anything like it. Chris, I want to double click on what you're talking about with conversation. Question for you is that dentists historically struggle with straddling the line between influencing patient behavior and then coming off as salesy. So you talk about the art of persuasion. How do dentists avoid being salesy while also being persuasive?
So the first thing is, I think we need to get past this concept. I tell dentists, especially young dentists, there's a term that I think everyone needs to stop saying. I do veneers. The equivalent to that is I take shits, right? Everyone does that. Right? I mean, so stop saying I do veneers. I don't understand that as a concept. That doesn't mean anything. That's like saying I make plastic bottles. Okay. There's nothing, you're saying the word veneer because you believe the consumer finds that sexy. But if you walked into a consult and you say, look, I don't do veneers. I design a smile to fit a face. I balance the lower third and middle third of the face. I use the whites of the eyes to balance the whites of the teeth. I design smiles so that your teeth are not coming through the door before the rest of your body. You hear all that stuff I just said? At no point do I say I do veneers. So we need to get past this thing because as soon as you say that, you're trying to commoditize what you do. They're not paying for the veneer. They're paying for the experience and then an expectation of a specific outcome. But everything leading up to that has nothing to do with the fact that you're selling them this little piece of porcelain. Again, I cannot sell you something that you do not want, but no one comes to a consult if they don't really have it considered in their brain as, I think I might do this. I'm just letting you, the dentist, screw this consult up so I can go somewhere else. Because listen, by design, I am the most expensive person in Northern Palm Beach County. Okay. I consulted somebody yesterday, a 70-year-old man who wants to do XYZ. And he was like $30,000. And I was like, yeah, okay. And he continued the conversation. It wasn't like, oh, I'm out of here. Because he quickly realized, I told him, I said, my fee can vary all over the place. I go, it could be 40. He goes, why? I go, based on a lot of things. And one of them is your personality. I kind of like you. So you're not 40. And he started laughing. I think you need to humanize the experience. We, especially younger practitioners, 10 years are out, we walk in with this white coat and I graduated. So now I'm the doctor, right? I think you should practice talking to everyone pretty much the same. I will talk to Kyle, to Ingrid, to Christian, my children, my staff, and my patients. You get Chris Ramsey. You don't get Dr. Ramsey when I walk in the room. It just happens to be I'm the expert. If I'm talking to that 70-year-old man and he happens to be an accountant and tomorrow I'm in his office, he's the expert. It's the same 2 guys, but now he's the expert. So I think we need to drop our arrogance of I'm a doctor. I think what we need to do is let them know you have their best interest in mind. And I think you need to drop the desperation. You got to be okay with the people who are going to be like, no. And they could say no for a million reasons. I am very comfortable with the fact that if someone goes, yeah, I don't want to do this, I'm like, this is totally fine. But if you're living... Let me back up even further. Your personal life is going to dictate your professional life. And let me clarify that statement so everyone listening, rewind a little bit and listen to it again. Your personal life is going to dictate your professional life. If your personal life is a little jacked, it's a little messed up, maybe you've made some bad choices, maybe you're going through some rough times, whatever the case may be, you're paying for a wife and a girlfriend simultaneously or whatever, right? If that shit's happening, you're walking to that operatory hoping to sell something because you need it. You need that money to be, oh my God, I got to sell this. And you can just, Chris Ramsey doesn't give a what anybody does, do or don't do. I was at a large meeting and people asked me, well, when you have patients in hygiene, they have chips all over their teeth. Well, what do you talk to them about? I go, nothing. Does the patient care? They're like, no. I go, then I don't care. I'm not trying to convince you. Look, let's look at your scan, compare it to last year. I want to, no, because eventually they'll go, Doc, I got to talk to you. What the hell is going on here? That's great. Let's do it. And I don't do it in hygiene. That's the second thing. You don't have these in-depth discussions. I want to talk to you about that, but we need to do it in a consult. So they'll be like, oh, just tell me real quickly. I go, there is no real quickly, brother. That's like saying I have a little murmur here. What do you think it is? Just tell me real quickly. Let's gather our diagnostics and let's just put something together. And I'll talk to you about it because if you want to fix, my question is, you want to fix quick or you want to fix right? So let's just meet. Now, if you want to meet, if they want to meet, there's a priority. If they don't want to meet, it's not a priority. But you got to understand, you got to stop caring so much about the desperation of whether those aren't my teeth. I have nice teeth. They're not chipped. If they were, I'd fix them. But if that person doesn't want to fix their chipped teeth, who gives a shit? Go on to the.
I heard someone call that with or without you attitude, and I love that. It's like, I'm gonna do this on somebody with or without you. And you guys know how when you're talking to someone and you know they're desperate to sell you something, it is off-putting. But if you say like, this is what you need, this is what I think you need, this is what I think would benefit you the best, and take it or leave it. You don't have to do it. They're like, wait, I don't have to do it. You're like, well, but what if I want to do it? What was hard for me early career coming out of, I went to the most expensive school in the world at the time, which was USC. Came out of school with $425,000 in debt. I needed that money. And that was what was so challenging. And one thing I learned from my father is he said, you do the best dentistry when you don't need the money. How would you change this? So let's say we're talking to younger dentists that literally need the money. Like, oh my gosh, they've got that $30,000 case in their practice. They freaking need this. How did they still come off with this with or without you attitude?
Needing the money is an interesting, we all need a certain base level to survive, right? We don't want to pay our mortgages and pay our rents and eat and have somewhat of a decent life. And I think we all deserve that. We all put in a shit ton of time. We sacrificed a lot. So that's a whole nother discussion of why I think it's fine for what we charge, because the sacrifices we've made thus far do justify that.
Well, maybe not need the money. Let's say they really want that money. Because how I was listening to you talk is, you're a successful person. You're far into your career. Yes, you don't need this $30,000, right? You have other patients that'll come, this and that. I want to reframe that for people that they're 2 years out and this could be the biggest case they've ever done. They're really excited about it, but they still want to have that with or without you attitude.
And they graduated from NYU and they have over $700,000 of student debt. So there is a very big reality there where it's not just about your personal choices. Like NYU is screwing young dentists. So I'm kind of hearing you say like, fake it until you make it. To piggyback on that, how do you do that?
Well, the first thing I would ask somebody is dentists. Okay, let's break it down. The first thing is dentists get enamored with the big cases, right? The big cases. Everyone wants to do the big cases and not realizing if you haven't trained for that, if you really don't have the support to do it, you're dying to do it and you could be hurting yourself long-term if you're not.
And you could be losing money on those cases when you look at the time.
First of all, you got to ask yourself internally, privately, do I really have what it takes to do this case? Because I see a lot of guys, especially like there's some dudes down in Miami, I'm like, they've done zero. I mean, less than zero. And it's like, look at us, we try, whatever. So but the bigger thing is I want to ask people is when it's getting away from the concept of I want to do the big cases is I would ask dentists all the time, how'd you come up with your fee? Like your fee is X. How'd you come up with that? And most of the time the dentist will have no idea. They have no idea. I said, so you don't really know what your fee encompasses. I know you want the money. You want someone to give you X amount of dollars, but the X amount of dollars, you came up with that amount from what? This guy yesterday said, oh, wow, 30, that's a lot. Can you knock it out for like 25? I go, no, that's not even in question. A younger practitioner may say, yes. So now you're found in this thing. Are you doing it because you really want the money and you really want to do the case? Because now you've just undercutted your value by instantly going, yes, I'll do it for less. So the question is, yes, I know you need the money, but at the same time, let's not forget single unit implant dentistry is the biggest profit maker on the planet. I think. It's the easiest dentistry to do. I think it's great. So you got to sometimes get away from the concept of these big cases and look in your practice to realize there's a lot of money there. Don't hang your hat on this one big case thinking that's where all the profit is. You can do a lot of great dentistry and charge well for it and make good money. But don't go into this consult thinking it's $30,000 in one foul swoop as you put in the time and the lab bills and the failure and the stress that comes with it, especially if you get lost in the case. So stop looking at it as I need the money. You do need the money, but the money is probably there in other avenues. You're just too focused on, I want to do the big cases because I want to post the pictures and I want to be famous and I want to. A lot of this, I need the money, is driven by a lot of other things outside of your actual bills. And that's what I fear for a lot of dentists. They want accolades from other things that don't mean anything. Take it from a guy who chased all of that, lectured all over the world and did all these amazing things and have amazing credentials. They don't mean anything to the person walking in the door. They really don't. I can go and have my badge this long with all the things that hang off the bottom of the badge. It's only cool for 2 days at the meeting. But what I'm trying to do here is charge a really good fee and do it well for even the smallest things I do. So a single unit implant crown. But if you are the person who's saying, well, I only get paid $900 because of insurance for this single unit, and you're hoping they say yes to a big cosmetic case, you need to take a step back and look at your systems in place. Because I talk to people all the time, they say, oh, this insurance is insurance. I was like, we were just talking about this a year ago. They're like, yeah. I go, well, what have you done to change it? And they're like, nothing. I go, then no one gives a shit. You heard me say this on the last podcast. Sympathy dies over time. If you're complaining about the same things now that you complained about a year ago, but you haven't done nothing to change it, it's not me or Christian or Kyle or Ingrid's problem to help you try to fix it because you're not doing the things necessary. You're focused on, I need the money, but you haven't done anything leading up to that point to say, what have I done to be better today than I was yesterday outside of just the clinical dentistry, all these things we're talking about? Because if you improve all those things, you'll walk in the room and someone will say yes, and you'll realize, oh, this money's actually easy to get. This money's actually not that hard to get. It's hard to get now because you're unsure of everything. You're unsure of your fee because you don't know where the fee came from. You're unsure of your skill set. You're unsure of your ability to communicate. You're unsure of your team going to have your back and do everything right. And all those things pile up on you, stress you out, you fumble through this console, and then you get pissed when someone says no. Does that make sense? Is that kind of, I think that's a lot of information, but what I'm saying is you have so many things. Somebody stop this podcast when we're done. Start focusing on these things, and over the next 2 weeks, improve a bunch of little things, which doesn't cost any money, by the way. Get your staff looking better, get them on point, have meetings about what you want to do, how you want. My question is this. I ask it at every podcast. Do you want to be a dentist in your area or the dentist in your area? There's a big difference. Chris Ramsey wants to be end of story. And they go, well, why do you charge so much? I'm the most expensive guy in Northern Palm Beach County. And as soon as somebody matches my fee, I'm going to charge more. Why? Because I can justify everything I've done to this point, all the training, all the communication, all the psychology, all the heartache and everything I've done to get it, to say, I know for sure I'm doing it better than anybody else around me, so I'm going to charge more. And what's crazy is I keep charging more. Kyle talked about this. All of a acceptance was going like this. Somebody was in the other day. I charged him $3,400 a unit. Now in LA, that could be normal. It's somewhere else. They're like, you're out of your mind. I charged him $3,400 a unit. Okay. And he was like, I was like, shit, I should have said 4, right? So my point is, where'd you come up with 34? Because I knew I'm going to have to take this guy through 5 or 6 different PMMAs while implants are healing. This case is going to take a long time and a lot of care, skill, and knowledge. That was just for his upper $3,400 a unit to do his upper. And then it's going to be the same to do his lower. That was more than I had charged up to that point. But as soon as I realized, oh, somebody said yes to 34, it's amazing how you'll be very comfortable with that number.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. When we bought our practice has been there since the 60s, treated celebrities for, again, since the 60s, and the fees were high. And one of the reasons we bought the practice was, well, we can really do the good dentistry that Pal taught us and Sasha taught us. We can do this and get paid well. And then you do those fees for a year and you start going, we should charge more. And like a year ago would have been crazy to think of. Every time we would charge somebody, we were like, oh my gosh, they're actually paying for this. And then now, we've gone up $1,000, for almost like $1,000 since then. And still we're like, kind of feel like we deserve even more now.
You could squeak it out more. And let me tell you, when in doubt, dentists, you need to listen to me. I swear to God, when in doubt, charge more. When in doubt, there's a thing called the trigger effect, right? We've all seen this, right? You get the girl with the Louis Vuitton bag and it's her basic bag. It's this size, 2 straps, zipper, 1 pocket. Michael Kors, $600. You go over to Louis Vuitton, $4,600. I go to Chanel, $9,600. I go to Birkin and Hermes, $20,600. Same size bag. Louis Vuitton's not even leather. It's canvas, vinyl. Right? So what's going on here? You are paying. We all know this. We can talk about the psychology of this. You're paying because you want that brand, that status. Your practice should be no different.
Chris, I want to double click on this. Is something that I know that you talk about a lot. So brand and perceived value are 2 topics that are very vague for dentists. How should dentists stand out in the modern landscape? And should they be doing those TikTok videos?
I think you should do, honestly, here's a general statement. I think you should do whatever makes you happy. I think if you're a good dancer and you want to dance, then dance your face off. I think you should do whatever it is. You want to take video. People always taking, some guys are taking videos, whatever. You want to do all that stuff and that makes you happy, do that. But when we talk about business, you got to really look. Somebody did a dancing video, got 11 million hits and he's got people but the question is, how much does that convert to business? How much does it really convert to you? It's great entertainment as people scrolling on their phone mindlessly. So for me, I think you need in time and money into your brand. And what I mean by that is if I show you the Ritz-Carlton logo without the word Ritz, you recognize the logo. They spent millions of dollars. You recognize that logo. Mandarin Oriental. I know what that logo looks like. 4 Seasons. I know what it looks like. My thing is it elicits a certain response for people to say, I want to go there. I want to do that. I think you owe it to the people in your community for your logo, which could be just your name or your logo, to do the same. People need to drive by and they may go, Kyle Stanley. I've heard of that guy. I heard he's expensive as hell, but his work is beautiful. Maybe they don't come. But what does that sign on that street represent? The thing is, you got to know, people are not paying for your crowns. If you thought they were paying for your crowns, you could have a bunch made, sell them over the counter as they walk through the front door. That's not what they're paying for. You got to get past that. So charge whatever you want, but you need to understand it's only about 10 or 15% of the actual unit. Look, let's just be honest in dentistry. Pay $150 and sell it for $1,200 or $1,500. 10 times markup. It's an amazing business that we're in, right? So they're profiting huge off buying this, getting it made, and then slapping it in somebody's tooth, in somebody's mouth. With that said, they're not paying for the crown. They're paying for everything that leads up to it. We don't pay because the beds are that much more comfy at the Ritz over the 4 Seasons. But one would say, well, when I go to the 4 Seasons, I have status. I go there and they treat me well. When I check in, they're like, would you like the 2 bottles of Perrier brought up to your room? Because they have a little note that I like Perrier. They're all these things, all the creature comforts that come with it. So with that said, you need to work on your brand. What does your brand say to the people in your community, if anything at all? And most dentists don't focus on that. They're just like, well, I'm a good dentist. But you're just another dentist. If I roll into Phoenix, Arizona right now, my question for every dentist is there that's listening to this, that lives in Phoenix or whatever, I would say to myself, I would ask you, would I pick you? Are you even a consideration on the top 3? Because one of the things we don't concentrate on is the fact that we need to make sure that our reputation in our community is built off that brand. It's a high-end dental office that does beautiful work. You may not afford it, but make no mistake about it, you know who they are, right? Not everybody's going to go eat at the high-end restaurant in every town because they can't afford it, but they know who the restaurant is. They know who owns it, right? They know. And one day, this is what you got to understand too, life changes on a dime for people. And when it does, you want them to pick you. I had a lady, she could not afford her dentistry. And then she comes back one day, she goes, I can't believe it. I went grocery shopping. Our supermarket here is Publix. I did a scratch off. She won $100,000 on a scratch off. I paid off my car. Blah, blah, blah. She was so excited. She goes, I want to fix my teeth. No one could predict that. But now she goes, I want to pick my teeth. I want to do my teeth. 2 weeks ago, she said, I'd never be able to afford that. So you don't know where life is going to change. You owe it to your community to continuously pump out the same message all the time. We're the best at what we do. This is what this logo represents. We can do it better than anybody else. Your experience will be different. Give us a call. And one day, even for those who can't come see you, they might. What happens when they can? Divorce, death, inheritance. You don't know what's going on in people's lives. There's a million things that can happen to change people's lives, and you need to be in their top 3 consideration for when that happens. I hope that kind of answers the question, but branding is important. Everybody knows Ritter Ramsey. Not everybody comes to Ritter Ramsey. That logo, you know what that means. So when you're at home and you're like, I'm just going to Google this real quickly. And then what happens? We have more Google reviews than anybody in town. That's a whole nother thing about social media. I don't love social media. I personally hate it. We're all getting sucked into this justification that I have to spend more time on it to keep the business moving. I just, in a sense, want to delete my shit. But then again, I want to know what some other people are doing, so I want to look. You know, chicken and egg thing. I don't like it, but I understand the need of it. But if you think you're going to get famous Instagram posts and that's going to drive people in, but yet when they come to experience you, you're the same as everybody else, you're going to lose. Over time, you're going to lose. So you want to get them in because of your Instagram, great. But you better know from the moment they call to the moment they come in to the moment they leave, you're doing it better than everybody else. And if you don't know what that means, either get your ass to our lecture or do something. Take a masterclass, watch a YouTube video, figure out how they're answering the phone. How good are they answering the phone? Like, it's got to be, you call us, it's an outstanding day at Dr. Ritter, Dr. Ramsey's office. This is Nan. It's an outstanding day at Dr. Ritter and people go, you guys are always in such a good mood. Now, is that true? No, we're not. But that's the illusion that needs to be created. So people go, I think I can afford that. I want to go poke around there a little bit. People will afford what they absolutely, truly desire. You will find a way to pay for something you love. There's a Porsche right now that Kyle wants. Oh, daddy, does he want it? Look at his face.
It's an 86 930 turbo. Yeah.
Exactly. And in his brain, his thing is, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out because he wants it. But let me tell you, no one can sell him a Prius. I don't care how good the salesman is. Kyle is not buying a Prius. You can get all the Prius salesmen on the planet. He will never buy a Prius. But when he goes to buy that Porsche, it's not just the Porsche, the dealership, the bottles of water they give you, the salesman's on point. He doesn't really have to sell it because the product has already sold itself. Do you understand? You know what I'm saying? Our smiles are out there for the world to see. You like them or don't like them. But what you will not be able to deny is the experience at this dental facility is like no other. But that takes work. That takes a lot of planning and a lot of constant training with your team. If you're not willing to put in the time, be okay being average. But I cannot fathom how anybody watching this podcast or listening to it on the phone or you're on your treadmill, you wake up every day. How the fuck do you want to get up every day and say, you know what? Today I'm really interested in being mediocre. I'm going to half-ass it the whole day. Bottom of the barrel is what I'm shooting for. If you don't come in every day going, I don't give a shit what's going on in my personal life. I don't care what's going on. I'm going to be better today than I was yesterday. If you can't do that, you've got other psychological problems. And then you can't expect that from your team are the driving force to your own success. You can make it or break it. We're dentists. I did a little thing, math the other day. I was like, I'm curious about something. 200,000 dentists divided by, I think it was like 350 million. I was curious. How many people have a dental degree? 0.0006. You don't think you're unique? There's a hell of a lot more electricians and plumbers than there are dentists. We are so unique. Everyone's always talking to me. I want to get a side hustle. I want to get some passive income. Bitch, you have a 0.0006 opportunity. There's not many of us. So if you're part of a very small little eclectic group, why aren't you kicking ass? Why aren't you waking up every day going, fuck, man, I'm going to be the best in my town. The best. Because if you're not, you need therapy or something else. Because I can't imagine. You're going to be 55 like me, and you're either going to be calling Kyle because you want to put a bullet in your skull, or you're going to be like, I'm burnt out, I'm miserable, I'm divorced, my kids hate me, all this other shit. We're going to get old really fast. You're going to look back and go, that was shitty, right? Or you're going to look back and go, oh man, that was so much fun. I loved it. People say to me all the time, hey, Ramsey, when are you going to retire? 2 standard answers. 1, not soon because I got divorced. Don't get divorced, right? Secondly, I'm not going to retire because I don't ever see myself not loving what I do. I love this every day. I love it. I love coming in here. My team's amazing because if they're not, you don't work for me. If you're not incredible, you don't come in, makeup on, hair ready, dressed and ready for the part as you're going out on stage, you do not work for me. And they know that. So everyone's ready to be on point and it's all an illusion. The show starts. Everybody goes, hey, how's your day going? I go, living the dream, man. Living the dream. They're always like, God, you guys are always in such a good mood. We are. But the truth is we're not. Some people got personal problems. Some people are having issues. But the truth is I tell my team between 8 and 5, I don't give a shit about. You understand that, right? I don't care what's going on in your personal life at all. People go, God, that's so rude. I go, you know what's even ruder is that Kyle or Christian or Ingrid or Chris Ramsey could have employees who think after all the training, all the heartache, all the sweat, all the boards, all the debt, All it took to build these facilities, you believe I should take this entity of Ritter Ramsey and make it ebb and flow because you weirdo, you're having some bad days. You broke up with your boyfriend. I go, you only dated him because he had ripped abs or he was a good dancer. Your decision-making tree is a weed. I go, and now you come into work and you think that we should flex our big machine to the whims of your fucking nonsense. I said, no, you have two choices. Get your shit together or get the fuck out. That's how it works here. Because between 8 and 5, when someone says, how's your day going? You think I want you, I broke up with my boyfriend last week. I'd be like, oh my God, fired. Get the fuck out of here. We're not doing that. When people say, how's your day going? You go, I don't care if your dog died. If it's so bad you can't function, then I tell you, don't come in. My girls know, you're having a personal problem? I'll pay you for 2 days. Get your shit together over the next 48 hours. Pull yourself together. Why am I paying you? Because I love you. And I know you got bills to pay. I'll pay you, but get your shit together because you can't come in here with your eyes watering and red or look like shit or hungover or whatever. You got to come and put on the show. That's what I want every dentist listening to this. If you're not willing to be incredible every day, you are going to be miserable.
Chris, I am dying to be a fly in the wall at your practice. When can I come shadow?
You can come anytime, but I will tell you, most people that come see me, they're like, oh my God, did you just say that? I'm an HR nightmare, right? Because the thing is, I tell this to everybody, and I would tell you guys as my friends, my family knows this, my team knows this. I think with all human communication, we always need to keep one thing in mind, intent. What's the intent of what this person just said to me? Is I say to my team, do you think it's my intent to make you cry? Or do you think it's my intent to make you want to be better? What's the intent? So you may not like what I say, but you know I say it from a place of love. I think it's two things we owe people, every human we interact with. We owe the respect. Everything I do is out of love, and everything I do is out of respect. I meet a stranger, a waiter, a bartender, the guy cutting my grass. I treat them with love and respect all the time. It gets me much further than being an arrogant douche who thinks he's cool because he's a dentist or a doctor or whatever. So love and respect. So everything is about intent. So no one has ever left my practice because of the way I've spoken to them. No one's ever left. And I am obnoxious sometimes because I need to get things in control. I think Kyle talks about this a lot. You need to be able to control your environment. If you are going to come to work and get beat up by your team, beat up by your home life, beat up by your staff, and all the stuff that goes with it, if you're going to have that kind of life, you're going to be miserable. I wake up every day going, this is how we're doing it. This is Cuba, and I am a dictator. This is my rules. This is how it's going to go, both with my patients and my team. We have very specific rules for patients too. Those who show up late, those who don't show up at all, that is not just put them back on the schedule. I can tell you a million things that we do that train people. You do this once or twice to people, then they show up early. My team is never late. They're never late, and they are on point every day, ready to go. Because if they're not, they're going to get the wrath of me, which, by the way, I want to end with one thing. I know I've been going on, but I want to end with one thing on this subject matter. All of this works in reverse as well. You better get comfortable with that, dentist. Meaning my team has the right to say to me, hey, what's going on with you today? What's wrong with you today? You're not on point. And they've caught me that. When I went through a really crappy divorce after being married 24 years, there were days I was like, oh my God, calls from attorneys and this and that. And I was like, oh my God. And my main assistant, she's like, yo, what's the matter with you? Snap out of it. And I'm like, she had every right to say that to me, right? But dentists are funny. They think these rules don't apply to them. The doctors who come in they had a bad night, fight with their wife, whatever, they come in and all of a sudden it's team's like, oh, be careful. Kyle had an argument with his wife and they have to tiptoe around Kyle. Why? Because the rules don't apply to you? Don't expect the best from them if you can't give that back. That's my point. So no, the rules are both ways. My team will call me out if I am not being the best version of myself every day, which listen, it's a little theater. I'm not going to lie. I'm not having a great day every day, but we owe it to the people. We're asking them to spend thousands of dollars. I just did a crown for somebody. Okay. I charged him $22.96 when it was all said and done. He's like, hey man, how's things? I go, dude, I'm like a cat, man. You throw me off a roof. I always land on my feet. Life is good. No, I got some shit going on. I can tell you my shit right now, but do you know what Kyle and Christian and Ingrid are going to say? You don't give a shit about what's going on in my life. Ingrid's like in Italy right now. She's like, as soon as this is over, I'm going to be sipping some beverages. I don't care if Chris is having a bad day. It's irrelevant to me. So no one cares about you and your problems outside of you and your mama, right? So we need to snap out of it. We need to give our best to these people. We're asking them to give us, you're not selling them something. You're not buying a hamburger for $8. I'm asking you to drop thousands of dollars on a single little piece of porcelain or this or that. God, I owe you the best of me. How do dentists not fathom that.
At the end of the day, we're in the high-end service industry, and I love that you say that the feedback goes both ways. I learned that for all of our listeners. It's this great book called The Great CEO Within that talks about that. How you have to be able to give feedback directly, which obviously is what Kyle talks about, but then they have to be able to give it back to you. And that's how you create that mutual respect.
Correct.
So,
you're 100% right.
Thank you so much. This has been such a fun, entertaining episode, and I learned so much. Brand, customer service, hospitality, persuasion. Like, I feel like all dentists have to do is listen to this one episode and they're going to be set.
Or come to the lecture with me and Christian. It's going to be kick-ass. Miami, baby. Miami. Yeah. It's going to be incredible. Yeah, we're going to go hardcore. But let me tell you, you come to that lecture with Christian and I, you better put your big girl panties on, because Christian is a beautiful human being, very attractive. The girls come, they love it. Chris Ramsey comes, I usually get off the stage and people are like, holy shit, what's going on? So if I will offend you in a good way, and I will make you go, holy shit, what did that guy just say? Because if I can do that, I can make you think. So I think between the two Chris's, I think it's going to be extremely impactful, because Christian brings one, I bring another, but the dynamics are so different. So come because Christian is beautiful, and come because Chris Ramsey's obnoxious. That's what you need to remember. Yeah.
Good ending to the podcast.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, like you said, you're coming from a place of love and you're living in an authenticity. So as long as you're trying to help people, then you can be you.
Yeah. I'm going to say one last thing. You will get more pearls from this lecture that you can go back and implement on money than almost any course you can take. I will bet my life on it. We'll give you so many. If you're going to be taking notes, you're going to have to bring like multiple pads. This isn't fluff. I don't do about fluff. I will give you hardcore. And when I talk to you in the lecture, what I always tell people, look at the bottom of the screen, because all the science references are always there. This is not Chris Ramsey's opinion. Everything I've talked to you about today comes from other industries, cognitive and social psychology. You want to be the best version of yourself in dentistry? There are ways to do it. If you're not sure how, start somewhere. Start with us. But I want this industry to be better, just like Kyle does. I want dentists to love what they do. I want them to build amazing teams, and I want them to be extremely profitable. But if you're not willing to put the time in and understand it's work.
Well, I can't wait to bring my team. On that note, thank you so much. I know that we've been going for almost 2 hours. This has been so entertaining. So thank you again for joining us. It's 8:15 p.m. on a Tuesday, I think, in Italy. I'm going to go have a glass of wine. Kyle, Christian, thank you so much for joining. This was so much fun, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you. Chris, where can our listeners find you?
Easy. Instagram is Chris_Ramsey_DMD. I didn't make that. Someone made it for me back in the day. It's annoying. It's not a ton of followers. I don't even care about that. Follow, don't follow. I don't get obsessed with how many followers I have. My email is drcramsey, drcramsey@mac.com. And my own personal website is christopherramsey.com. Or you find us at ritterandramsey.com. So any of those, or just give me a call at the practice. I'll talk to anybody, anytime about anything.
I'll take you up on that.
All right.
All right. Bye, Chris.
I love you guys.
All
right. Thank you so much.
Stay in touch, Chris.
All right. Love.
Get the fuck up out the chair. Whoa.